Good morning. We are live on Monday morning on the Falcons Podcast. It is week 14, almost at the end of this, and we have seen the Atlanta Falcons lead, 2.5-game lead over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers evaporate over the course of 3 weeks. And now the Falcons are 15th in the draft order instead of in a playoff spot and looking up at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And frankly, Nick, things are getting worse, not better. How are you doing today?
I am doing okay. It was nice to have a bye week. Unfortunately, Mills has another upper respiratory thing, so it's like every 3 weeks we just cycle in something new from daycare. So you spend, half your paycheck on daycare, and they bring home viral friends. So it's a good time. Luckily, we have a humidifier, so one of our neighbors let us borrow a nebulizer, just to have, because I walk and she see him and he's coughing. It's like, oh well, I don't use it anymore. My kids have been gone for 20 years, so that's been nice, helpful, good to have helpful neighbors. And yeah, I enjoyed not having to worry about the Broncos this week. It meant that I could really pay my attention to college football and the Falcons.
Yeah, we call that you're paying extra for the immune system builder uppers that is daycare. That's what that is. So it's training. It's baby training that you've got them in right now. So welcome in, everybody. We go live on Monday and Wednesday because we like having the conversation with y'all, and this will be a chance for everybody to kind of vent their grieves, the airing of grievances at what was it called, Festivus, the Festivus airing of grievances. That's what it's going to be. And again, like I said, it's a 4-game losing streak, and I didn't really have any hope of beating Minnesota. It was a terrible matchup, but the problem is, why is it a terrible matchup? Are the Minnesota Vikings so much better, so much more talented that you have no chance of going in there? I posted after the game, and we'll get into this, but I put on my X account after the game is, we can point fingers at Kirk Cousins. He's been playing terrible. Yeah, he has been. We can point at Kyle Pitts. We can look at Justin Simmons. We can look at D. Alford being spun in circles, and Clark Phillips still on the outside when he shouldn't be. We can look at all those things, but the biggest mismatch in this entire game was on the sidelines and in the booth. Kevin O'Connell is very good, and as a play caller / quarterback coach / offensive coordinator, he is one of the best, if not the best. Zach Robinson's a first-year offensive coordinator calling plays, first time ever. Brian Flores versus Raheem Morris / Jimmy Lake on the defensive side of the ball, total and complete mismatch. It's not even close. And the Minnesota Vikings have gone from, this is a team that should be picking in the top 5 by most pundits. What was their over-under at the beginning of the season, Nick? It's probably around 5 wins. They're 11-2. I'll let you look it up while I finish off my thought here. They're 11-2. And a lot of it has to do with the coaching, and the special teams kicking in. It was a complete and total team failure up in Minnesota. It's getting worse, and that starts at the top. That starts at the very top. You guys can blame Arthur Blank if you want to, but for hiring these guys. But right now, this isn't a team built to win now. It's built as a team to grow. And right now, you don't see the growth, and that's the problem. And people can say, Nick, what a Kirk Cousins win now? No, it wasn't. You don't have a draft pick of all reserves, a first-year offensive coordinator, a first-year defensive coordinator, and a coach who hasn't been a head coach in 20 years to win now. This is a team built to start in 2026. It's just right now, it doesn't look like this group will even make it to 2026, Nick.
Yeah, they were completely outclassed, and just the lack of attention to detail and undisciplined nature of this Falcons team going to Minnesota. I mean, you mentioned it, the penalties. You had 12 penalty called for 127 yards.
It was the most penalized team in the NFL this year. So that was it. When we're looking up who had the worst penalty game of the entire NFL season, it's Atlanta Falcons versus Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, you lose the turnover battle 3-0. You have a fumble on special teams as well, and give quickly, as Cousins said in the post game, he had the ball. It was 21-21, and the next time he touched it, it was 35-21. So Again, it's not all on Cousins. I put this one more on the defense. I mean, if you give up 42, let's even call it 35, that's not good enough. But Cousins too. I mean, not good enough. I will defend Zach Robinson a little bit here. Now, granted, you're completely correct in saying that he's outmatched by Kevin O'Connell.
No, he's outmatched. He's doing okay.
Yeah, he's
showing signs of a guy who can be a good offensive coordinator in this league. Now they need to get better in the red zone. I mean, they're moving the ball between the 20s very well. The total offense, for those of you that are going to say, just like last year, we had a top 10 defense last year. No, we didn't. He's going to have a top 10 offense by total yards, but in scoring and execution and non-penalties where it matters and turnovers, which probably all rolls into EPA, which is what you like, Nick, is not going to be anywhere close to a top 10 offense.
Yeah, no, they are finished this game with 496 yards again,
which is a lot.
Yeah, you had 70 offensive plays, so I mean, you were moving the ball, of course. You mentioned it. We talked about the turnover, we talked about the penalties. Just these, how can you move the ball that much and still lose by 21? Your goal to go, or your red zone, you're 2 for 5. Vikings 4 for 4. That bend don't break's really they're breaking down there.
Yeah, it's broken.
What was that?
It's broken. Oh, the bend but don't break is broken.
Yeah. I will say we got 4 sacks in this game for the Falcons. So the pass rush has almost doubled their sack total coming into the last 2 weeks. But still going up 42 points. And this one, it was the secondary. I mean, unfortunately, I think we have the play of the Falcons year unless things turn around. The D. Alford play. I mean, he obviously, my interpretation is I think a safety messed up back there. I'm not sure which one. And so he had to, hot tail it to cover the guy deep. And I've never seen a player look more lost in space than that. It's totally panicking. And that kind of just is a encapsulation on what's gone on the last 4 or 5 weeks of this Falcons team. Are we allowed to show this without getting...
This was a play. Nick sent this to me yesterday.
Are we allowed to show this without getting demonetized?
Yes, fine.
Okay.
If not, we'll get dinged, whatever. So they'll demonetize us on Facebook or whatever. I showed this on I put Chad into a panic by showing this play on Broncos on Mile High Huddle last night. But this is D. Alford in the slot, and this is a group of defensive backs. Watch him coming out of the slot that don't understand the assignment. That it's just unfortunately he's looking over his shoulder. He hesitates. There's no help back there. He's looking outside, inside. And then he's so turned around. It's just this play kind of encapsulates the Atlanta Falcons defense right now. They're lost. They're just completely and totally lost. And again, we'll talk Kirk Cousins. And yes, I think a change needs to be made at the quarterback position, without a doubt. That's not going to fix everything. It's not. It'll help. But it's not going to be the total fix. Shay Ellison coming in here. Good to see you, Shay. Thank you so much for the super chat. Breaking the ice for us over there. He's got the Atlanta Hawks logo. Shoot, they're on fire. As I'm looking at NBA stats, I don't know if they've kept it going, but they won like 6 in a row. He says, good morning, Scott and Nick. Is it time to have a serious conversation about Raheem Morris and his ability to coach this team past this year? It's clearly is concerning. I don't think it's been so bad that you can really start kicking the tires on the idea that he's going to be a one and done. I do not see that happening. And frankly, you're usually allowed to sacrifice your coordinators at least one time before you get fired. I think Jimmy Lake's days are numbered. If he's back with this team in 2025, I will go nuclear on this administration in the offseason. Jimmy Lake's got 14 games. What is it? It was 6 and 7 now, so 13 games. We've seen 13 games. I've seen enough. Go somewhere else and learn and do this and maybe come back. But you're in over your head right now, and this isn't a sharpening school. This isn't where you go to learn at the NFL. It's just so he's got to go. Can Raheem Morris do better than this? We'll see. We'll get a chance to find out, because I think he's got at least 2 years. I don't think we're going to talk about Raheem Morris going, and that's just not going to happen after this season. But Zach Robinson could get plucked away by someone else. It was almost Oklahoma State. We had that report this weekend. Oklahoma, he was their number one choice at Oklahoma State, his alma mater, if they didn't come to terms with Mike Gundy. But they usually only last 2 years anyway. Every single team in the last 2 years has changed offensive coordinators, all 32. So that's just normal. And then I'll be shocked if Jimmy Lake is a defensive coordinator of this team in 2025.
Yeah, they've been really discoordinated on the back end. I mean, it's that play that you showed was, I mean, put the circus music going on in the background watching that one. I feel bad for the guy, but I mean, that was just horrific. And again, I'll defend Zach Robinson. I think the offense, I wish they're a little bit more versatile in their run game, but like, can they even add any versatility to their run game with Cousins' lack of mobility? Now, granted, in this game, I was happy to see them utilize the under center game more. And early on, it was working until, the defense popped and everything kind of fell apart. And we had two more especially one, but two more WTF interceptions from Kirk Cousins. That first one where he short circuits. I don't even know what else to call it. Just don't throw the pick, man. What are you doing? You cannot throw that ball.
I almost just reposted. I posted halftime thoughts from last week's game against the Chargers. I almost just hit retweet. I'm like, this works again because number 2 was if Kirk Cousins not pump fakes, but hitches. A pump fake is designed. Okay, that's a hitch and go. But if he pulls back, hitches, and then throws the ball downfield,
it's going to the other team.
It's an interception 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
If he pulls back, because a pump fake's not the right word. He's not faking. But if he double clutches, I guess that's what I want to say. If he double clutches, I don't want to see the ball travel more than 5 yards. That's the only chance he has of a positive play. And you're not going to train that out of him at this point. I mean, he's 36 years old. But by God, man, hopefully some of that is the instinct is kicking in. I don't have it. Okay, take a sack. I'll take a grounding. I don't care. Take an intentional grounding. That basically is a sack. But throw the ball at somebody's feet. It's really, really bad. That was Shay. I see you coming in again. Keith and Ellen Johnson, I see you as well. But right now I want to say thank you to these guys. Lion Coffee, lioncoffee.com. They are a partner of the Falcons podcast and have been a great partner for us throughout this entire 2024. So not only this season, but last season during draft season as well. And it's not understated to say they power the Falcons podcast, because in the morning we definitely get all cranked up on Lion Coffee because it's good. We're going to drink our coffee anyway. We might as well drink some good coffee. So make sure you go to lioncoffee.com. They are Hawaii-based, Hawaii-grown, Hawaii-roasted, Hawaii-shipped, all-American company, which matters to me. And you can use the code GOFalcons20 to get 20% off anything off their store except 100% Kona and full cases. Everything else, and there's plenty to choose from, 20% off as a partner of the Falcons podcast, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best. I really enjoy the vanilla macadamia roast as well. So shout out to them for that. And it's so good that my mother, who visited out in, I guess it would have been July when she was out here, she came out and helped watch the baby when I went down to California and climbed Mount Whitney. She said, can you please bring back some bags of Lion Coffee to have so we can have some good coffee while you're back? So I said, Mom, we have the code here. She's like, bring some back. You're driving. You're going to have room. So that's God bless them. They're the best. And I really do appreciate all their support. And I mean, literally support in the morning, because with how much, having a newborn, how much he's been sick and whatnot, and, my wife having shingles, these early mornings, I've needed it. So God bless.
Lion Coffee, more roar in every pour. So Keith and Ellen Johnson getting us going over there on Facebook. Thank you for the stars over there, Keith. Hope you are doing well, my friend. And Shay coming back to back. Shay says, I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and the wife and I will be heading up to Vegas next week for the Monday night football game. Little programming note. We'll probably go Monday and Tuesday next week and take Wednesday off of the Falcons podcast.
Not me, but we'll talk, because I'm going to be driving across country. So,
okay, so the Falcons podcast will probably go Monday and Tuesday and off Wednesday next week, because I'll have an immediate reaction from the game on Monday. Staying up late watching that game, or if it's anything like yesterday, I'll go out and blow leaves in the middle of the night, because about the second interception from the Falcons, my yard got cleaned off in a hurry right after that one. So, but I'll have boots on the ground for next 4 Kirk Cousins interceptions. Is it Penix time? So I made a prediction, and I wasn't wrong on this because coaches are predictable by nature. This week, when asked about Kirk Cousins, what was he going to say? He'll say, we look at everything every week. He's going to say it this time. Last week, he said no, absolutely not. This week, he says, Kirk Cousins is our quarterback. We look at everything every week, but Kirk Cousins is our quarterback. That leaves the door open. That leaves the door open a little bit. It wasn't going to happen this week. You can go back and watch what we said last week. It was not going to happen. Kirk Cousins was not going to be benched going to Minnesota against a Brian Flores defense. That's just not the time to throw Michael Penix into the fray. At 2-11 now, Vegas, you're in second place. Yeah, now's the time. At home against the Giants, I think, is the next game. I think they've dropped down to 2-11. Yeah, now it's time. Now it's time to, unless you are so married to the fact, and frankly, they've convinced a lot of people because I see the comments. Oh, you don't want him playing his first year. Yeah, talk to Bo Nix, talk to Jaden Daniels. Well, look at these guys. Those guys weren't good enough. That happens too. There's nothing saying if I keep this guy in the oven for 60 minutes that he's going to be ready. If I put him in the oven and bake him for a full season, he'll be ready. That's going to magically make him an NFL quarterback. But if I pull him out at 55, he's going to be all gooey and doughy and it's not going to work. No. Michael Penix, if he can play, can play. There's nothing to lose at this point. There really isn't. So it's Michael Penix time. And then you need to decide how you're going to handle Kirk Cousins' contract after the season, because you have now pissed away a 2.5-game lead in a 4-game losing streak in the division, and your quarterback is playing like cheeks. 0 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 4 touchdowns without a passing touchdown puts him in very rarefied air. And it's mostly rookies that have gone 4 games without scoring a touchdown. It's mostly rookies that have that distinguished mark, Nick.
And it's not just the interceptions too. It's the fumbles, right? I mean, that's part of the concern with Kirk Cousins as well coming into the season. In the last, Scott, he's fumbled week 7 one time, week 8 one time, week 9 2 times, week 10 2 times, week 11 once. We didn't have any week 12, but then week 13 a fumble as well. So none last week, but I mean, it's just way too much putting the ball in the air. And you're not getting this game. I thought we were getting a little bit more down the field attacking, but a lot of it's been 9 yards or less as well. So you're not adding much to dynamism, and it's not just you cannot turn the ball over as much as he is for the style of offense and the way the defense is playing right now. I mean, what do you have to lose playing Cousins right now? The fact that he has to put up 35 plus points and play with that level of what's the word I'm looking for? You just kind of franticism. I don't know, the franticness. That's not the right word, but to have to play keep up. And that's not always great. You can't really manage the game, which you'd rather do for a rookie quarterback versus, oh my gosh, if we don't score a touchdown every other drive, we're going to lose. But still, the way Cousins has played, you got to kind of find out what you have with Penix. And he's obviously going to be the starter at some point coming up here. But with how easy the schedule is coming up here, granted, the Giants do have a really good pass rush up front. You do have, the Commanders as well. Their defense isn't great. And then you have a upstart Panthers team who's playing everybody pretty tough here as of late, surprisingly. But still, it feels like it's time. I don't know if this staff has the gumption to make that move, but I think everybody's ready. I'm ready.
Yeah, I think everybody's ready, except, again, they've gaslit everybody into he needs to sit behind Cousins so much that I don't know if they're going to be so stubborn as to not come off of that. And frankly, this was his developmental year, and we're not going to play him at all, ever, even in the preseason. That's weird, man. It is. And I'm sure there'll be some people in the comments that say, it's too early. He needs to sit for a year. Why? It's been a year. It's been 13 games with a bye week and a full offseason. That's pretty much a year, man. It's time.
Yeah.
It's time. If you can't play him now, you can't play him. That to me, that says that He's not good enough, and that's certainly not the either that or you're so stubborn that you're willing to cut your nose off to spite your face. None of those are good answers. There is no good answer right now to why you wouldn't play Michael Penix Jr. other than, hey, he hurt his shoulder and we're hiding it. Okay, well, that's not a good answer either. There is no good answer.
Yeah.
Let me go back to it. There's no good answer as to why you wouldn't want to play Michael Penix right now. And no matter what you spew in the comments, regurgitating the garbage that's been coming out of Flowery Branch about how to build this team at the quarterback position and regurgitate what they've been saying all summer, I'm going to disagree. I'm going to disagree on it completely. Rusty comes in. He says, Morris was a McKay hire. As far as I'm concerned, McKay needs to be fired. Raheem and his staff can go too. Let's hire Ben Johnson and restart next year. Yeah, McKay has been moved off the Atlanta Falcons, and it happened, I think, when was it? When did we last see McKay? Because after that, it was announced there was such backlash that he was there. Was it when they announced Arthur Smith's firing and Terry was not there because he was out scouting, but Rich McKay was, and everybody lost their minds. I mean, all the Falcons fans like, why? Why is he even still here? It wasn't too long after that it was announced that he was being moved away from Falcons operations. And yeah, he can go too, as far as I'm concerned. Ben Johnson will be the number one choice of teams. So where does he go? Where does he go next year? Detroit wins it. Ben Johnson is now who is the number one opportunity right now? Would you think?
I mean, there's not that many jobs open quite yet.
That will be open. Would you? I mean, Dallas Cowboys could be open.
I would say Cowboys or Bears.
That's the premier job in American sports, in theory. Now, do you want to play for Jerry Jones and go down there? That dysfunction. The highest profile team in American sports is the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. Cowboys are up there, but I don't know if they really have good infrastructure right now for a team building. They look like a team that needs to reset, and they just got married to Dak Prescott, which, I mean, if you have a good quarterback, don't let him go, but he's, been injured again. So that looks like a concerning team. It could be the Bears. I mean, what does he think of
you stay where you know and go to the Bears.
Yep.
They've been so dysfunctional too. Is that Ryan Pace? They're another underachieving team. The Bears and the Falcons have been on a parallel course the last 5 years, as far as I'm concerned, with their failure to meet expectations. But the Falcons' job is not opening up this year. It will not happen. Now, defensive coordinator, yes. Offensive coordinator, he's not going to get fired. Zach Robinson's not going to get fired. Will he be here next year? We'll see. I would still say yes, that he's not going to get a head coaching job somewhere. College ranks included, y'all, because he damn near got one this year. That came up quick with Mike Gundy, and they'd pay him $5 to $7 million a year. They'd 5x his salary. You're not going to compete as a coordinator with a Power 4 school for dollars, especially with the going back to my alma mater and stuff. So, yeah, Ben Johnson's number one. Brian Flores is going to be. I think he should be a head coach next year.
He has the weird thing with the suing of the league, so I don't know.
There might be enough behind that someone says, you know what, maybe that wasn't Brian Flores' fault.
I'm not saying it was, but the league.
I know. Yeah. There's enough time and hindsight behind his suing the league that says, you know what, he was justified. And his players love him. That's important. He wins. That's more important. If you win, we'll overlook a lot. And he's good.
And we haven't talked about this, Scott. I saw it in the comments section. I've been also wanted to bring it up, but you talk about Lake being gone, of course, but Terry Fontenot. I mean, how many top picks have we had in this team just is spinning in place? I mean, Falcons right now are, I don't know what pick they have, but they got to be
15.
Somewhere probably 15, you said?
It's gone down to 15 now because they're out of a playoff spot and they have a losing record. Before they were sitting at that lowest playoff spot.
19.
But now they've got a losing record, so they're at 15 and could drop back into. Can you imagine drop into the Arthur Smith commemorative number 8 pick and pick number 8 for the 4th straight year? How do you keep your job? 7-10, 7-10, 7-10, 7-10?
I don't think that'll happen because the top 8 teams in the NFL are the top 8 draft picks on the top 8 teams. They all only have 3 wins, and you're sitting there at 6. It goes. I mean, there's just so much bad.
And the Falcons' schedule's tougher this year. They won't get the number 1 tiebreaker like they have the last 3 seasons. They've gotten the number 1 tiebreaker because their schedule's been so easy. So they're actually around 15th. Now that's going to fall the next 2 weeks because they play 2 losing teams, but it took a jump. Their strength of schedule is now middle of the pack, and it'll come down again, but they won't have the number 1. The last 2 years, they've had the easiest schedule in the NFL, so that wins over tiebreakers, even over head-to-heads. So if they're tied with the Saints, and they're only 1 game ahead of the Saints right now, if they're tied with it, well, they're 1-1 with the Saints anyway. But either way, tiebreakers, the only tiebreaker that they look at is strength of schedule once they go to draft. They don't look at head-to-heads, et cetera, et cetera. Rio, good to see you. He says, good morning, Falcon family. The fourth quarter yesterday killed us. Does that to bad teams, Rio. Good teams play better. And I think I heard them say that half of Kirk Cousins' interceptions have come in the fourth quarter more than anybody else in the league. Well, he's got the most interceptions in the league, so he's probably got more interceptions in any quarter than anybody else. But 50% of your interceptions come in 25% of the most important part of the game. That's bad. Nick, how do I judge quarterbacks? You've heard me say this before. Let's see if you're paying attention. How do I say that's the best quarterback? What's my metric? All right, I don't want to put you on the spot too long.
Yeah.
Who do I want to have the ball with 2 minutes left in the game on the line, down 6 points? Who do I want to give the ball to?
Probably Josh Allen right now, but yeah.
Kirk Cousins, right now, I'd still go Patrick Mahomes. I would still give the ball to Patrick Mahomes. But which for me then makes him my number 1 quarterback. Forget every other metric out there. Who do I want to give the ball to with down 5 and 2 minutes, 90 seconds left on the clock? Kirk Cousins is throwing interceptions greater than any other person. To be fair, lately, the Falcons have had to throw because they've been behind so much in the fourth quarter. It's all bad.
Yeah,
we need to win out and hope the Bucs lose against the Chargers. I said weeks ago after losing to the Broncos that we were in trouble. Keep Kirk in. Rio's ready to tank. Rio's like, keep him in there and let's go get another top 10 pick. Is this the draft? I mean, the edge rushers. This might be the year to get your edge rushers. And Nick, watching the Vikings, they so had the offseason that I wanted.
Darnold?
Cheaper bridge quarterback. Draft your rookie. Spend on a free agent edge, Jonathan Greenard, young free agent edge who's having an awesome season. Draft pick with another young edge rusher. Those were the 4 moves. Sam Darnold has played out of his mind. That happens sometimes when you take a chance on a cheaper Geno Smith, 1 year Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold. It happens sometimes. Sometimes these guys redeem themselves and play a little better with a change of scenery. Get your quarterback of the future, like they did with J.J. McCarthy, who was 20 years old instead of 24. So, yes, let him sit a year. He's 20. Okay. Limited experience. I get that one a little bit more than the 24-year-old. We need to put him in the oven for a season. And then use that free agency money to backfill. They actually lost a really good edge rusher in Danielle Hunter, but beef up the defense. And they had the offseason that I was hoping the Falcons would have. But again, I think the biggest mismatch yesterday was still the talented, experienced coaching staff of the Minnesota Vikings versus the very green coaching staff of the Atlanta Falcons. And that was a mismatch.
And again, you come back to it, just how many things are indicative of an undisciplined, not well-coached team. Bad special teams play, turnovers, but turnovers on special teams, for goodness sake, penalties and blown assignments on the defense. I mean, it wasn't that the Vikings scheme was, obviously Kevin O'Connell has been incredible this year. Darnold, had one of the best games of his career. Might have been the best game of his career, Scott.
I think it was another perfect, I posted, I think it was another perfect passer rating. And I think because 157.9, I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
And it was at least the second one because Bo Nix also. So going into this season, if you said rookie Bo Nix and Sam Darnold we're going to have perfect passer ratings against you, what would you think? You'd say you're out of your mind.
I'd say they got hurt after the first drive and they like had a really good drive and then they were out. That's what I would have said. Yeah, not good. Just not a well-coached team, and one that is, I mean, it's kind of a fish on the dock right now, flailing around. There's just nothing is working for them. The offense is still moving the football, so there is like at least that tenet. And I think, in theory, if you had the same defensive output as you had last season, on top of Cousins not having to drop back and put it in harm's way as much, that is a winning formula. But now that it's this very rigid, we have to score this much playing from behind pressure on the offense because the defense can't do anything. They're starting to get a little bit more sacks, but they can't do very much. It's tough right now. I gotta imagine this is one of the worst defenses in football. I mean, Scott, I gotta imagine. I see it. They are one of the worst defenses in football. They're also just absolutely horrific in this game against the Vikings on third down. The Falcons were the worst defense that has played football so far. We still have Monday night, but the worst defense has played football so far, both against the pass and against the run in EPA per play. Vikings at 100%.
Bad? If I'm worst against the pass and the run, is that bad?
I mean, it is. I have the graphic here. I'm still here. That was me accidentally pushing the wrong button there, not my camera going away, Scott. It's actually worked now that it's directly in there, so that's great. But let me see if we can pull this up here real quick. I think you actually have to do it. Yep, there you go. So there's the Vikings in the top right corner. X-axis, drop back EPA, Y-axis, rush EPA. By far the best rush EPA, and I think, granted, that's only 1 or 2 plays. And then the best pass EPA. So not a good job. That is obviously horrific. I looked at the overall EPA. You have like some of the like 100th, 90th, 95th percentile of how good the Vikings were on third down in this game. And it's not untenable. You can't do that. You can't win football games being that bad on money downs.
Yeah, I think I said last year there were a couple fireable offenses for Arthur Smith. One of them was losing to this Viking team at home to Josh Dobbs after he had just hopped off the MARTA bus in the first quarter and walked into the stadium and was drawing plays in the rubber pellets and lose. That was one of them. I think there was like back-to-back games or something where Bijan Robinson had like 4 touches. I'm like, that's a fireable offense. This is a fireable offense right here. This is who's in charge of the defense. Just pack your bags. We got to do something else. Again, Kirk Cousins, yes, I want him benched. I want Michael Penix in the game. That's not the only problem this Atlanta Falcons team has. And Sam is coming in with a very similar statement with where he feels about things are. He says, if we miss the playoffs, is it fair to say literally every offseason move was a fail except possibly Penix? No, it's not, Sam. Right now, I mean, we'll start at the beginning. Hiring Raheem Morris, it doesn't look good right now. Zach Robinson, okay. I've seen enough to say, okay, I like where that's heading, but a first-year guy. And then Jimmy Lake, fail. Jimmy Lake needs to be replaced. God bless you, Jimmy, but you're getting paid well, and you've made a bunch of money in this game. You'll be fine. You'll find another job quickly. This is not the place to learn on the job right now. And that's what he's doing, and it's we just showed why that looks so bad. And then we go to Kirk Cousins signing, which at the time, again, that was not my number one choice, but you did that. You went and signed Kirk Cousins. So you're throwing out an indicator that we'd like to we think we're in a good spot. We can win now. And the contract wasn't so cost prohibitive that you couldn't then add guys around him. Well, you went and added Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney was a win. That was a good signing. You're getting very good value for Darnell Mooney, regardless of anything else that's happening. That was a good signing. Frankly, so was Ray McCloud. Ray McCloud was a good signing for the money that you've put him on. But then your draft was, and I put a couple videos up, Sam. There's a short on YouTube, if that's where you are. I put it up on Twitter. I went back to the Monday after the draft, and I said it then. I'll say it again now. Every move the Falcons have made since signing Kirk Cousins says they regret signing Kirk Cousins and that they're in this for the long haul. And we can win now or win enough to placate our fans with Kirk Cousins, but we're really building for the future. Michael Penix is a backup for this year, for 2024. Ruke Orohoro, He's a backup for 2024. And you traded a third-round pick up to go get him. Braylon Trice, third-round edge. Those guys don't start as rookies. Those are for the future. Brandon Dorless, defensive tackle, backup. Not J.D. Bertrand. Yeah, J.D. Bertrand. I get him, Bertrand and Landman confused sometimes. J.D. Bertrand, backup. Zion Logue, backup. Casey Washington, backup. Jace McClellan, backup. At best, you didn't get a single contributor in your draft, and you didn't address anybody else until August when, hey, Matt Judon becomes available. Let's try and do that. And that move hasn't worked out. And Justin Simmons, he's still available, but his price has come down to a point where we like it. That move hasn't worked out. But frankly, nobody on defense has. Again, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I am not putting this at the feet of Justin Simmons and Matt Judon when the entire defense is playing like ass. I put that at Jimmy Lake and Raheem Morris.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of issues going on, obviously. There's been some moves that have worked out. I mean, Mooney's been one of the best finds of any team in the NFL this season, especially with what the wide receiver market is doing. I mean, he's been playing like a top 15 wide receiver. But Bucks Raised Bolts is right. I mean, he's in here. He's saying, we're sticking a fork in the Falcons right now. It's hard not to after seeing what they've looked like over the last 4 weeks. But you got some easy opponents. There is a chance that they, really find something, dig deep and find something here and turn it around. I mean, the Buccaneers still have to win games. I saw that Bucky Irving got hurt, missed a lot of the game because of a back injury. They obviously have Mike Evans, but Baker Mayfield, I mean, you talk about Cousins putting the ball in harm's way. Baker Mayfield's going to give the other team chances too. So it's not over yet. It feels like it's over, but there's still games to be played, and it can get worse, of course, but it can also get better. So we'll see. The games have to play out.
And maybe things will look better. I mean, if I needed Kirk Cousins to get a confidence boost, well, going to Las Vegas is a decent way to do that against that defense and the New York Giants, as long as you don't get them killed. Real quick, as I was talking about Zion Logue, Chris says, we lost Zion Logue because we couldn't keep him on the practice squad. Technically, that's true, but that was an effect, not the cause. That was a symptom, not the disease. The Falcons lost Zion Logue because they couldn't find a place for him on their 53-man roster because they were really deep at defensive line and didn't need to draft another defensive lineman that late. That's why they lost Zion Logue, because they were drafting third-string guys, and they cut him because he couldn't make the 53. That's why you lost Zion Logue. And then once you're on the practice squad, you're essentially a free agent. People misunderstand what the practice squad actually is sometimes. Every single player on the practice squad is a free agent. Plain and simple. To get onto the practice squad, I have to cut the guy. So it's like, well, we'll just stash him on the practice squad. No. Doesn't work that way. It's not like an injured reserve. Doesn't work that way. Coach, good to see you in here. He says, been too long. Miss you guys. Have a great show and a great week. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's again, I feel like we're getting some clarity on this team. We know the direction. We know where it's headed right now. So it is good to see you. Thank you so much for the super chat, and the support that you show our show. Question real quick. I know there's some talk about here, and we can get into the Raiders a little bit more. In fact, we'll get into the Raiders really on Monday. Did Ritter come in because Aiden O'Connell was playing so poorly, or did Aiden O'Connell get hurt again?
Done for the year.
That answers that question. Ritter played pretty well yesterday when he came in. Efficient. He's not going to do anything. You just hope when you're watching Ritter, right? Don't lose the game for us. Try not to do. And he was 12 of 18 for 100 yards. That's kind of Desmond Ritter. Let's go short. But he didn't throw any interceptions, no touchdowns, managing the game. He can be forced into. If Kirk Cousins would play like that, this team wouldn't be 6-7. They also, to be fair, they probably would have lost a couple of those shootouts early when he was hitting on his gunslinger mentality against the Buccaneers. They're probably 0-2 against the Buccaneers if Kirk didn't have that mentality. Greg, good to see you. He says with the super chat, he says, when Morris was hired, I said to myself, you got 2 years to right this ship. offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator is a first-year hire, and it shows with the consistent inconsistency. Amen. When we talked about this roster, I'm as guilty about it as anybody, period. So I'll fully admit to it. I discount the coaching too much when it comes to personnel rosters and winning. I'm a GM at heart, and I look at the personnel, I look at the roster. So we had to ask ourselves, Forrest asked the question, Nick, where can this go wrong? We asked that question several times, and we came up with a bunch of different answers, Nick. And Greg, what he says right here was one of the answers. This is where it can go wrong for the Atlanta Falcons in 2024.
Yep. I mean, they just don't have a culture, and it's starting to unravel a bit for Raheem Morris, obviously, as we talked about. Now, granted, he is, unless there's like fighting on the sideline and he completely loses, institutional control, he will be back again next season. I'm not quite sure about Jimmy Lake just yet. I mean, I think he should be gone right now from what we've seen. We had some life in that Chargers game. Now, granted, the Chargers offense is not very good right now. Very weak in the middle of the offensive line. Running backs hurt, and not a lot of pass catchers. I mean, outside
we saw the difference, Nick. What happens when you're going against Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison instead of a one-armed Lad McConkey, who was out this week, by the way, because his shoulder got messed up in that game, and Quentin Johnson. We saw the difference. Yeah. Even between Justin Herbert and Sam Darnold. we saw the difference.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with Lake out here. I mean, I don't know how you could bring him back, but it could just be, coaches. A lot of times coaches will stick with their guys, and it's not all Lake either. I mean, again, we talk about it on the personnel. The cornerbacks outside of Terrell, questionable. I think that they've not been I know that some of the stats say they're good. I haven't been super impressed with them. And then just the defensive pass rush in general has been a little better, but I think Lake should be gone. We'll see. That's the first move I would probably make, but you never know. These relationships, these guys will go down with their ship a lot of times too. So we'll see.
Yeah, I refer to the coaching profession as a form of the mafia. These guys are made men. I see guys get fired and hired every single year. And frankly, we talked about that the Rooney Rule is one of the reasons I really like the Rooney Rule, is because it forces these guys to step out from their incestuous relationships where it's the same guys that get hired over and over and over again. And you are forced to look at different people. I don't care if they're blue, black, brown, yellow, polka dot. It forces them to get out of their comfort zone, which that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned. But Morris didn't go anywhere after the season. Again, I kind of liken this to, I've seen some Quinn comparisons, and I agree with you. I agree with you all to a certain extent. Right now, this reminds me of 2017 when Dan Quinn hired Steve Sarkisian, who had never been an NFL offensive coordinator, and handed him the keys of the number one offense. Well, from 2016 number one offense to 2017 was the biggest drop a number one offense had ever had in the history of the NFL, first year under Steve Sarkisian. Sarkisian should have been fired after the 2017 season, and he wasn't. The players saw that, and the Falcons came out and were like 1-6 to start. They basically give up. If you do not make a move on the defensive side of the ball in this offseason, you can flush 2025 down the drain, because these players do not believe in Jimmy Lake. That is obvious.
Yeah, falling apart. Not very good, not good fundamentals. And now you're having, what was this defense good at, Scott? I mean, early in the season, we talked about, okay, well, a lot of things bad, but they are far and away the number one in the NFL in not giving up explosive plays. Well, obviously going up against Jefferson and Addison changes things, but it's not even the structure on the back end of the defense isn't even doing anything now as well. So it's not good enough. They obviously need a shot in the arm and talent on the defense as well, but still, you can scheme your way to have a little bit more competency here, and it just does not feel like they have any idea that they know what they're doing. They have no answers right now, and just every turn they're getting beat. I mean, when have we even seen, other than that Chargers game, I can't think of a Falcons matchup where being like, oh yeah, they won the schematic advantage on that side of the ball. I mean, it's a long season. I'm sure it's happened more than that, but not even close to good enough right now. So yeah, Jimmy Lake.
No, they held the Steelers in check, but that was Arthur Smith playing uber conservative week 1, and then it's been bad. The defense has been bad, and I saw a comment in here. He won't fire his best friend. He won't have to. You can be called into Terry Fontenot's office, and Terry Fontenot will fire him. I can give him that plausible deniability, but if Jimmy Lake is back, it'll send a signal to the team. It'll send a signal to the defense, and you can flush 2025 right down the drain. And we can start talking about, Scott, you're being hyperbolic. This is way exaggeration, maybe. But if Jimmy Lake is back coaching this defense this year, the team will check out, and we'll be talking about who can the Falcons draft in the top 5 to really start the Michael Penix era in 2026. Daniel Keenan, this feels like a newer name, and you're coming in with some big stars over there on Facebook. So thank you so much. I certainly appreciate it. He says, if this team ends 6-11, Raheem keeps his job, but if we hit 7-10, I hope he gets fired. If he goes 6-11, basically, you're gonna lose anyway. Lose big, dude. Don't screw around and mess up our draft choice. They're trying to win.
Let's see what happens. Have you got plenty?
It's tough to get them to tank on game day. They're trying to win.
Yeah, they will not tank on purpose. Too many people's jobs on the line. It's week to week, year to year. You can soft tank by trading away talent or playing. Okay, you have a mandate from the front office that we need to play our rookie contract guys. So we're sitting veterans. So you can tank without the players actually tanking. And you can't really do that on the field. You're going to get yourself hurt, right? The outright. It's not like basketball where you can have an off night and the shaving points, right? Just there's too much on the line. Injuries too possible. But I mean, we see teams kind of do it from the front office side of things, but coaching staff, players, never happens.
Yeah. So Daniel, thank you so much for the support over on Facebook with the stars. Yeah, and players, we hear the phrase for it's making business decisions. You see that, like I said, when I say they check out, that's it. Maybe I don't want to throw my head into that pile. Maybe I don't want to take on that pulling guard that's coming through the gap, and I'll kind of shuck him instead. Maybe I don't want to lay out over the middle in between two safeties. And that's the kind of stuff that happens on losing teams down the stretch. And again, if Jimmy Lake's back, the Falcons team, that'll send a signal to this team that we're not serious in 2025, and the players will reciprocate. And all it takes is going from 100% effort to 97% effort. And the margins are so small, and you lose 5 extra games. It's most of these games are 1 scores in the NFL. You rarely see a line in the NFL that is greater than 1 score. It might be out of 16 games a week, there might be 3 where there's a double-digit line. Yeah. So on that note, Nick, any final words before we come back on Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday. Like I said, next week I'm going to be making that slow drive from Seattle back to East Iowa. Going to do it over 4 days. So I'll be gone Monday and Tuesday next week. I could be back Wednesday, Scott, so I'll leave that out there if you wanted to do Tuesday, Wednesday instead. But yeah, it should be we got the Raiders coming up Monday night. Raiders are a pretty darn bad team. I mean, currently own the number 1 pick. But we'll see. Desmond Ridder revenge game. Brock Bowers is playing ridiculous football. And the Falcons are kind of spinning the drain right now. So if it's hopefully a get-right game, you still got 4 games left. So we'll see. But right now, yeah, definitely feels bleak. But, 4 games, things can change quickly. It's a week-to-week league.
So I see this question. I'm going to hit on it real quick. I've kind of skirted around this topic, and Keith has hit it, so I want to answer this question. Okay, is Kyle Pitts on the trading block? For me, he is. And again, Kyle Pitts, I don't care if you blame the surroundings around Kyle Pitts. He's not being targeted. He's not being used right. He's not being this. He's not being that. Or if you're in the camp that blames Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts runs lazy routes. He's dropping easy balls. His effort stinks. He's overrated. There's 2 camps on this. Whose fault is it that Kyle Pitts isn't producing? I don't care. Okay? I don't care. It's not working. Okay? It doesn't matter. I spent 2 years in high school in a relationship where we fought over whose fault it was that we were not getting along. And I realized it doesn't matter. We don't get along. It's not working. It's not gonna work in Atlanta for Kyle Pitts. Get what you can for him while you can. Move on. He might be a superstar somewhere else. It's not happening here. And he's a liability. He's a liability for the Atlanta Falcons. You cannot keep forcing this match. It's not working. I'm not blaming Kyle Pitts. I'm not blaming Kirk Cousins and Zach Robinson. It's not working. It hasn't worked for 3 years. 3 out of 4 years, it hasn't worked. Get what you can for Kyle Pitts while you can get it, and stop having him be a liability for your team, even if it's your fault.
Yeah. We'll see what happens there. I mean, he's going to be expensive wherever he goes next on his one-year deal, considering the production. One little note also in this game, I thought I noticed a lot more 12 personnel from the Falcons.
Charlie Warner plays a lot. Mm-hmm.
We saw Charlie Warner actually get a little bit more usage in this one. And also I wanted to give a shout out to Mooney and Ray McLeod had pretty good games on the whole. So I don't really love the seems like it's scheming so much for Ray McLeod with the other options there. But for being the third, fourth, fifth weapon in the pecking order, I thought he had a pretty good game. So not all doom and gloom. Shout out to Ray McLeod with a pretty good game.
Harry Marshall Wood says Kyle Pitts' forte is the deep ball. How many times have you said that about tight ends in the history of this game? Well, he's different. He's the unicorn. I keep hearing that. Penix will make him better. What if Penix isn't the quarterback next year? What if it's still Kirk Cousins? What if Kirk Cousins is the quarterback next year? Because he plays well at the end of this and they give him another shot. That's the last year of contract you got on Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is an Atlanta Falcon forever. He's got a fifth-year option, and then you're done. Again, you've run out of runway on Kyle Pitts when you drafted a 20-year-old project with no quarterback. You've run out of time on him. So it's time to get what you can while you can. It's not working. And again, I'm not blaming Kyle Pitts. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just stating a fact that it's not working. It's not working in Atlanta for Kyle Pitts. And my opinion is I don't think it's going to. So while you've got him under contract, he's $10 million next year. He's $10 million this year. That's not working. I would move on. I would absolutely move on right now. So on that note, we're going to get out of here. Thank you so much, Harry. I see your comment. Appreciate it. And we all want to see Michael Penix. That's the bottom line right now for this season right now. Yes, there's a lot broken with the Atlanta Falcons. No, Michael Penix isn't going to be the savior of this team. Can he improve it? Yes, he can. Is he the future of this team? We hope he is. All right. Let's start now. It's done. We're done waiting. It's time. So we're out of here. Thank you so much. We'll be back on Wednesday. If you want to talk a little more football, Nick and I are going to head over to youtube.com/milehighhuddle right now to talk some Broncos. Thanks again to Lion Coffee for fortifying and powering the Falcons podcast. Go to lioncoffee.com and use your code GoFalcons20 to get 20% off. A special thank you to our Super Chat superstars, including Shay coming in twice. Keith Johnson, thank you so much. Rio, love you, brother. Rusty Moore. Caleb, newer name, coming in with some support over on YouTube. Sam, great question. Good conversation. Coach, thanks a bunch. Greg, Custom Kicks. And then Daniel with big-time stars over there on Facebook. Love y'all. Have a great Monday, a soggy day in the South. And we'll be back on Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your day. Appreciate you being here.
Peace.